Hi, sweetie pie. How are you doing this morning? It's a beautiful morning here. We had huge rainstorms last night. Big thunder, big, uh, big heavy rain. Oh my gosh. Like just downpour, and then it just rained and rained. And then it gently rained through a lot of the night. And it was an active night. There wasn't any real food out and about for the marauding animals, but nonetheless, about 3 a.m., there were two big, large raccoons, redundant, two uh, big, rotund raccoons, and they tried to get into the porch and stepped into the water buckets and washed their hands, seemed to be digging around the small chicken coop. One of them went up to the big chicken coop, and I looked out on the balcony to scare them away, and they looked up at me like, "What would you like? Like, you're interrupting our work in our yard here." So it was very interesting. And then I heard noises from another animal. I don't know what it was. And then this morning when I went out, a groundhog went running off from the tomato section, and the bees are acting really crazy in a frenzy outside of the back of the one that has the broken pieces. So it's lively, but the birds are doing their thing in a nice, peaceful way. And we have two felines right here. We have little Maisie, if you can see. I don't know because of the glare if you can, laying on the windowsill. And we have little Malcolm reading the morning book. I never can quite position these right. Oh, brother, look at this. The morning book to Isaac. And the book this morning is The True Story of the Three Little Pigs by A. Wolfe, as told to Tom Sieska, illustrated by Lane Smith. Let's begin. This is going to be interesting. You're reading some of these before you read the actual story, but no matter, they're uh, enjoyable either way. The True Story of the Three Little Pigs. Everybody knows the story of the three little pigs, or at least they think they do. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story because nobody has ever heard my side of the story, says the wolf. I'm the wolf, Alexander T. Wolf. You can call me Al. I don't know how this whole big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Mostly it's because of our diet. Hey, it's not my fault wolves eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheep and pigs. That's just the way we are. If cheeseburgers were cute, folks would probably think you were big and bad too. But like I was saying, the whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. This is the real story. This is a cute book. Even the little details of this and of the cover showing all these newspaper articles where it says the scenes of the crime, the straw house, the brick house, etc. But look at this. The O in story is a pig's nose. It's very funny. Oh, and the I, little pig's tail. And this I, bricks. Very cute. Straw, the Y. Way back in Once upon a time, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny. I had a terrible sneezing cold. I ran out of sugar. Oh dear. And the cake, it's not quite like our cake. It looks to me like I'm seeing rabbit ears and other assorted things. There's Granny, who seems to be a wolf in a bed with spectacles, looking like a granny. So I walked down the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. Now this neighbor was a pig, and he wasn't too bright either. He had built his whole house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, who in his right mind would build a house of straw? Good point. If that's all you have, that's what you use. But imagine in a rain like we had last night, it would be pretty miserable on the inside and falling in places. So, of course, the minute I knocked on the door, it fell right in. I didn't want to just walk into someone else's house, so I called, little pig, are you in? No answer. I was just about to go home without the cup of sugar from my dear old granny's birthday cake. That's when my nose started to itch. I felt a sneeze coming on. Well, I huffed. And I snuffed. And I sneezed. A great sneeze. And you know what? That whole darn straw house fell down. And right in the middle of a pile of straw was the first little pig, dead as a doornail. He had been home the whole time. It seemed a shame to leave a perfectly good ham dinner lying there in the straw, so I ate it up. Think of it as a big cheeseburger lying there. Of a big cheeseburger just lying there. I missed a word. It adds a bit to the sense of the sentence. I was feeling a little better, but I still didn't have my cup of sugar, so I went to the next neighbor's house. This neighbor was the first little pig's brother. He was a little smarter, but not much. He had built his house of sticks. I rang the bell on the stick house. Nobody answered. I called, Mr. Pig, are you in? He yelled back, Go away, wolf. You can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin chin. I had just grabbed the doorknob when I felt another sneeze coming on. I huffed and I snuffed, and I tried to cover my mouth, but I sneezed a great sneeze. And you're not going to believe it, but this guy's house fell down just like his brother's. When the dust cleared, there was the second little pig, dead as a doornail. Wolf's honor. Now you know food will spoil if you just leave it out in the open. So I did the only thing there was to do. I had dinner again. Think of it as a second helping. I was getting awfully full, but my cold was feeling a little better, and I still didn't have that cup of sugar from my dear old granny's birthday cake. So I went to the next house. This guy was the first and second little pig's brother. He must have been the brains of the family. He had built his house of bricks. I knocked on the brick house. No answer. I called, Mr. Pig, are you in? And do you know what that rude little porker answered? Get out of here, Wolf. Don't bother me again. Talk about impolite. He probably had a whole sack full of sugar, and he wouldn't give me even one little cup for my dear sweet Granny's old birthday cake. My dear sweet old Granny's birthday cake. If you mix the words up in a sentence, it gives the wrong meaning. Sweet old Granny's birthday cake makes sense, but sweet Granny's old birthday cake, a different sense, not a good cake. Back to the story. What a pig. I was just about to go home and maybe make a nice birthday card instead of a cake when I felt my cold coming on. I huffed, and I snuffed, and I sneezed once again. Then the third little pig yelled, and your old granny can sit on a pin. I never heard that version of the story. The pigs tend to be the heroes in the versions they tell us. This one does sound a bit rude. Now, I'm usually a pretty calm fellow, but when somebody talks about my granny like that, I go a little crazy. When I can't say this word, COPS, police drove up, of course I was trying to break down this pig's door, and the whole time I was huffing and puffing and sneezing and making a real scene. I guess are the police around here. The rest, as they say, is history. And this is the news story of the big bad wolf, huffing and puffing. A.T. Wolf, big and bad. Wolf, I'll huff and I'll puff. Red Riding Hood settles dispute out of court. Others plan court fight. Canis lupus, seen as menace. And then they have, look at this one. They have letters drawn to different parts of the growling mouth, so they can label the different kinds of teeth, the snout, the chin. It looks like there's a hair on his chin. Chinny chin chin. The news reporters found out about the two pigs I had for dinner. They figured a sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting, so they jazzed up the story with all of that huff and puff and blow your house down. And they made me the big bad wolf. That's it, the real story. I was framed. But maybe you could loan me a cup of sugar. That's the end? What about Granny? What about Red Riding Hood? No, that's a different story. Oh, sorry. I got mixed up. I saw it in this headline. That's another story where the wolf is not the hero. Well, I wish it went on a little bit longer. Perhaps because I thought it would get into the Red Riding stuff too. But that's okay. That was a fun book. And it says about the author, John, I won't pronounce this right, but I'll try, Sieska, is a writer and teacher. He lives in Brooklyn, New York, with his wife and 2 children. Occasionally, he has been known to howl at the full moon. Very nice book. I'm going to read you another one soon. I got so many good ones from the library. Okay, little guy, I hope you have a splendid day today. There's a hummingbird at the hummingbird feeder, and 2 of them actually. I made more syrup late last night. I'm going to replace it. It said in the heat to replace it every 2 days. He does seem to be flying back and forth like hay. There's supposed to be good syrup in here, not old syrup. He's going to have good syrup very soon. I love you, little guy. Have a great day.